I saw you save my dad from that truck this morning.
And nobody sees me when I'm doing my thing.
Maybe you're not the only one who can move like that. Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, Wally West, whatever your name really is.
It's Bart.
Alright, and welcome back, everyone. So, we are actually going to have to backtrack a little bit, because I did make a little error in the last episode. There are actually a few issues before Infinite Crisis that came directly after John's that I need to talk about. There's not too much to them. I mean, this one issue specifically, Flash 226, it's basically just a filler story, just a little fun little story where Wally goes mountain climbing. He ends up getting altitude sickness. And eventually things are solved, and he does save the day for the most part. So that's really that. That's really just for that. Oh, Smallville. Funny that show just got mentioned before. And then this is the next issue, issue 227. This starts the next arc, which is more or less basically a filler kind of arc, because again, things are going to be taking a different direction after Infinite Crisis, and I think the writers already kind of knew that, so they're basically just here to like fill in the gap. This is called Finish Line, because again, they are alluding that Wally's race possibly might be coming to an end. I mean, he may want to settle down. He's got 2 newborns now. It's got some nice art, though. Not sure why this cover always made me crack up. I don't know. It's just the way like Wally's screaming like ah, and then you got like Nightwing in the back like throwing his batarangs like ah! Like I don't know. It was just a funny weird cover to me. But mainly what's going on in this arc though is Wally's having these like dreams and nightmares about like his possible end. Like he has one about like Mirror Master finally taking him down, and it just keeps going back and forth. And eventually, at one point, he does meet up with these group of like he meets this like one group of like these like kids that are like part of like a church group, and they claim that they're like aliens and they're like trying to like find their way home, and Wally wants to help them out, so he ends up having to take this one device called the Summoner from the Flash Museum. However, these kids though, you find out they're not exactly the most well-intentioned. And who are they working for? They are working for Vandal Savage. That's right, we've come full circle. This is going to be near the end of Wally's run, and we're going back to the villain who started everything with him, Vandal Savage. The Flash 229. Again, I'm just briefly going for this because there's really not much to this story. It's like I said, it's kind of just like filler. Basically, what happens is Savage wants to use the Summoner to draw a meteorite to get more power to like have his immortality last longer, because I guess it started to go from like his original exposure. Okay, and then this is going to be the last issue for now of Volume 2 of The Flash. This is issue 230, the end. This is the final part of the arc. And this is where things are going to take a bit of a turn for The Flash for a while. Shire and Morel will appear in this as well. This is, I think, going to be one of their last appearances, actually. Savage with the meteor, which he ends up like falling into, because they're able to reverse the propulsion of the meteor. Instead of it coming down, it's going back up, and Savage is like, "I'm going with it!" And then this is the last page. And it says here right on the end, it says you can follow Wally and family into Infinite Crisis number 4, and we'll see you back here in a few months for all new Flash number 1. So I did show off what happened in Infinite Crisis number 4 at the end of the last episode. I showed what happened with them going to the Speed Force and all that. However, let's go back to Infinite Crisis, because I'll show you a little more of what was going on before we get into the new book. Alright, so now we're back into Infinite Crisis, and one of the things that does happen, so last we saw all the Flashes pushing Superboy Prime into the Speed Force, or at least into some other kind of dimension, basically just some prison where Red Sun is to, like, get rid of him. Unfortunately, though, Prime does get out. The Flash does follow him back to warn everyone that he's coming back out. However, you think, oh, you just assume this is Wally, right? Well, here's what happens. Flash punches him in the face, says, "Still got Flash phobia." Love that. Superboy Prime goes, "You stay away from me, Bart," which makes Cassie react and say, "Bart," and goes, "Long story, Cass, but yes, this is Bart Allen. This is the new Flash. How is he older? What exactly happened? We're going to get into that into the next series, but yes. There is a little more to it, though, at the very end of the story. Infinite Crisis is so awesome, by the way. Okay, so it's like right here. It's actually cool because it's kind of like a weird like homage to the ending of the original Crisis, where Wally does decide to take Barry's costume to become the Flash. So basically, here's what happened. Bart explains, "Wally disappeared with Linda and the twins. I spent the last couple of years in a place that's not going to be easy to explain." Jay goes, "And you came back running. I thought the Speed Force was destroyed." Yeah, that was one of the other things that happened. They kind of sacrificed the Speed Force to get rid of Superboy Prime. Bart goes, "It was. I had some residual speed locked inside me, but I used it all up in Metropolis. I'm not fast anymore. But according to all these tests, you still are, right? It has nothing to do with the Speed Force. My metahuman gene is active. I guess I tap out at the speed of sound." "Well, I'm not running. Well, I'm done running. I'm not the new Flash. From here on out, Jay, you're the fastest man alive." Okay. So Bart's not going to be the new Flash. I guess Jay's going to be the new Flash. Or is he? We'll find out. And here we are. This is the new book, The Flash, the fastest man alive. Yes, we're no longer in the Flash main series. This is now a whole new book called The Fastest Man Alive. This is actually written by Danny Bilson and Paul Demo, a.k.a. the two guys who actually worked on the original 1990 Flash show. So that'd be kind of cool, kind of interesting. See what happens here in this book. This is volume 1. So as we left off in Infinite Crisis, Jay Garrick is now the main Flash. Bart is now also older. He's now the age of a college kid going out of like college. He's now roommates with this kid named Griffin Gray. So how exactly does Bart become older? Basically what happens is, again, because once he was stuck in that world with Superboy Prime, he aged up in that time because of course, in the Speed Force time works differently than our time, and then as he comes back older. You can see Bart living his life, taking a shot. Nice. I will say, though, one thing that I find kind of funny about this book is that it does remind me a lot of the original, like, Ultimate Spider-Man, like by Bendis. Particularly, like, I feel like Bart, for some reason, is kind of drawn like Ultimate Peter Parker. Like, specifically with the hairstyle. Even some of the humor he has. Bart's going for all these memories. So, basically, as what happened at the end of Infinite Crisis, Bart does explain that he tapped out of his speed. However, that was a lie. He did not tap out of his speed. He still has speed in him. He just doesn't want to use it because he doesn't want to be the Flash. He has an overgrowing fear because one of the things that's going on is the Speed Force is actually inside of Bart. We find that out near the end of the book, but Bart did have some amnesia for a while, so he couldn't exactly remember. He eventually does remember, but even then he does discover he does have some speed in him, but he doesn't want to fully accept it. At one point, him and his buddy Griff get into this accident. That's where you get to see Bart still have some of his Speed Force. Jay sees this as well. He's like, what the fuck? So there's that. I will say one of the things I do love about this series is the covers. The covers are amazing in this series, and particularly the last issue probably has one of my all-time favorite Flash covers. I'll show it when we get there. But of course, from the accident that him and Griffin sustained, Bart is able to save Griff's life, of course, but through that, Griff is able to get these new abilities, this enhanced strength, and almost kind of like this like energy, soul-sucking energy. But meanwhile, one of the other things that's going on is Jay does want Bart to get tested by Star Wars. Basically, Jay is more or less trying to push Bart into becoming like the next Flash. Like, Bart is very hesitant. He doesn't want to do it. But Jay's basically saying, like, look, it's your time. It's your legacy. While everyone is gone, you're next in line. Because that's one of the things that does happen with the Flash. Is that this isn't like where it's always Clark Kent's always Superman or Bruce Wayne's always Batman, you know? With the Flash, it's different. It goes for many different people. It is kind of a legacy thing. It's like passing a baton in a race, as they refer to it. And now it's Bart's time. One thing that is interesting to know, too, is it is funny, like, how hyperactive Bart was as a kid and how funny and out there he was. He's definitely a lot more mellow and a lot more serious as an adult. Which I think is one of the things why a lot of people actually don't really like this book. I will say this now. This isn't one of the best runs on The Flash. I still do like it. And it does have potential, but yeah, it wasn't very popular. And we're going to see, this isn't going to last too long. Let's just say that. So at one point, Bart does end up going to Star Labs to meet this chick named Valerie, who is trying to help him, like, control the Speed Force inside of him. And they eventually do start to fall for each other, let's just say. But one of the things that is cool in this moment here, like, Jay actually had Star Labs redesign Barry's original costume and ring, which could help Bart sustain his Speed Force energy. So it's actually cool that Bart's going to wear, like, the OG Barry suit. And see here with I love this effect in the book, like the way the costume comes out of the ring. Like, I love the way it's drawn here. So a lot of cool images. Bart does help because, of course, he wants to help Valerie, because at one point there is an explosion. And actually, one of the things that happens with Valerie is Valerie keeps getting these phone calls from this person who is claiming to be her father, and unfortunately it is her father. We find out later on who it is, but I'll reveal it when we get there. And meanwhile, we have this character. We have Griff, of course, this roommate, who's now basically what he's trying to do is, now that he's got all these powers, he does want to try to become like his own vigilante, his own superhero. Of course, he's not, of course, doing it the right way. And one of the things that he does end up doing is he actually sets up certain things to happen so that he can end up rescuing people. Even at one point, he actually tries doing here, like, there's, like, a whole thing on, like, a boat where he ends up getting Jay out of the way, because, of course, Jay's, like, constantly on Griff's ass, like, being like, yeah, you can't do this, blah, 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 blah. So Griff tries to take him out, where he basically makes, like, a prank call saying, like, oh, there's some other disturbance that Jay has to take care of, so Jay leaves this boat so he can save these people on the boat. And then, of course, things do go wrong. Jay does come back, find out what's going on. He does eventually save some people, but yeah, it's not good, and he ends up getting a reward for it, which superheroes should not be getting money for that. You be a hero because you do it for the right reasons. Bart, of course, is still like hesitant about like being the Flash. But still, throughout this run. Oh yeah, all right. So this is the moment now here too. So eventually, his relationship with Valerie does deepen a bit, and we actually find out that her father is actually the villain, Manfred Moda, who, if you remember, he was actually the villain I talked about back in the first story of the Mark Waid run in episode 4. He was the one that kept going from like generation to generation of Flash. Yes, that's her father. And now he's back to attack the new Flash. And meanwhile, another thing going on too is Griffin's powers have some side effects. All the enhanced strength and all that, it's killing his body. It's making him age up very quickly. Just like Bart used to have this issue. And there's Moda, who is just basically like pure energy now at this point. And his plan now is he wants to kidnap her daughter and use her body as a way to re-splice his cells so he can like come back to normal. Which Bart is now going to have to stop. I mean, at some point though, they do get together, and then he finds this note from Val saying like, "Hey, it's not going to work out." Basically written by Moda just to get him out of the way. And it's actually kind of, I guess they also kind of do that too, because they basically kind of like pause that story for a bit to focus more on the Griffin stuff. But we also do find out that Moda is working with someone. He is working with Tad Fawn, a.k.a. Inherita, a.k.a. the clone of Bart Allen. Yes, all Flashes must have their Reverse Flash and their Fawn. This is Bart's. Well, maybe not their Fawn, because you have Hunter, but still. Reverse Flash, same thing. One point, Griffin tries kidnapping Jay. Bart's gotta save him. Again, damn, great covers, man. Love the covers in the series. Also, I gotta say, I mean, Bart is a pretty cool Flash. Actually, one of the things I do like about him that I think is kind of unique and cool is that, like I mentioned in the last episode, how the Flashes have different eye colors. Like Wally has green, Bart has gold, and I think that's pretty cool. But even at one point, there is one point in the book where one of the villains, I can't remember who it is, but one of them, I think it might have been it's Abracadabra, actually. Yes, it's Abracadabra, where he goes, he has gold eyes. He never had gold eyes. And that's where they realize that's a different Flash. Oops, sorry. But eventually, though, yes, he does end up taking down Griffin. And as he's underwater, his memories do come back, and he finally does remember exactly what happened during Infinite Crisis. Because you remember some stuff, he doesn't remember everything. But basically, here's what happens. So they end up in this other alternate Keystone City with an alternate Jay Garrick. And it's all of them. It's Max Mercury, Bart, Barry, and Wally. Our Jay's back on our Earth. He didn't go with him. But basically what's going on is that, yes, the Speed Force is dying. It took all that power of the Speed Force to get rid of Superboy Prime, because that's how crazy powerful he is. And originally they feel like the only way now to protect the Speed Force is to put it into someone and run back, also because they have to run back because they have to warn everyone about Superboy Prime coming back. And they originally all suggested it should be Wally, because of course Wally's the current Flash at the time. Bart eventually does say, like, hey, look, I mean, that's a lot of power, and Wally does have, like, children now. He's got a family. Maybe he shouldn't be risking this. I should do it. And Wally gives Bart the ring with the original Barry Allen costume. Because the costume does get damaged, and they fix it earlier in the book at Star Wars. But yeah, so basically, Wally gives it to him and basically says, the ring is yours now, Bart. And he's telling the story to Jay, and Jay goes, well, there's certainly no doubt now, son. You truly are the fastest man alive. Alright, and now we go into Volume 2, Full Throttle. Okay, this right here, this is the cover I was talking about. This is my favorite cover on The Flash. Or one of them. So this is The Flash, Fastest Man Alive, Volume 2, Full Throttle. So now at this point, this is actually, because, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of this run. I do like some of it. And admittedly, the first part that we just went through was not super great in my eyes. It's like I kind of don't like Griff as a villain, and I feel like Bart's basically just whiny the whole book. This is where it now gets a little better, because now, like, we're at this point where Bart's accepted that he's the Flash. Now we're just, like, in full swing here. So now Bart has embraced his destiny, and now he has become the Flash. We also have a new writer as well. This is actually written... Who's it written by? Well, the last couple parts are written by Danny Bison and Paul DeMano. But then the new art, Full Throttle, is written by Mark Guggenheim. Yes, that Mark Guggenheim from Arrow. A lot of TV writers writing this run. Interesting. It's just a Christmas special. So one of the other things that is going on is that, so since now Bart basically does more or less own the Speed Force, like the Speed Force is in him, obviously other speedsters can't tap into the Speed Force, specifically Inherita. Inherita doesn't want that. He wants to be the fastest. He wants to get the powers back. But as of right now, what he is doing is, you see here, he's actually tapping into Velocity 9 taking that drug to have some speed. If you remember that drug, that's the drug that Speed McGee took back in the William Mr. Lowe's run. Another thing I will say that's cool about this series is that it does make reference to a lot of the other runs. So I do kind of like that. That's all connected in a way. I know I said that in the Johns episode too, but again, I do love that. I love that kind of continuity. And we'll see more of that later with the Flash. It's actually probably one of the other reasons why I do love the Flash so much, because it really does keep everything together like that for the most part. And I will say, I think you guys really should give this thing a shot. Unfortunately, these trades are probably long out of print, and I really hope one of these days DC either releases this stuff along with the stuff we're going to talk about in the next episode into like one big omnibus, or at least release Fastest Man Alive in like a nice like hardcover or something. Like let's at least do that. And we get to this scene, which could be kind of controversial. Val and Bart hook up, which is, you think, oh, not a big deal, but you have to remember, Bart is still technically in the mind, he's still, mind you, technically still a 16-year-old, and Val's 27. Yeah, let's leave it at that. And we're still dealing with this with Moda. Eventually, Bart does take him down. Damn, the art here is so good. But now with Moda taken out, and also, actually, I want to talk about this page here. Sorry, I don't need to go back and forth. But this is probably my favorite page in the run, because eventually at one point, Bart does settle with Val once all the stuff with Moda's taken care of. And what he decides to do, because for a while he was actually working at the Keystone shop, kind of like Wally. But eventually one thing he does decide to do is he decides to get a better job, and he decides to go back to school. What does he decide to do? He goes, I've been thinking a lot about Barry and how he was able to help people not only as the Flash, but also as himself. So, sorry, it's like hard for me to read because it's like far. So I'm applying, sorry, can't talk today. So I'm applying for a job in Los Angeles. With the knowledge I picked up along the way, I should ace their tests. Forensics. I like the sound of that, and I think my grandfather would like it too. So yes, he's gonna step into Barry's shoes and become a forensic scientist, which I think is great and awesome. And also, one of the other things, yes, that's another thing I should mention too. Bart is actually really intelligent, because one of the things that happens in the Geoff Johns Teen Titans run is, so speedsters do have this ability where they can read an entire library of stuff in like seconds and gain all that knowledge. The difference is that for all speedsters, when they have that knowledge, it's kind of like having like a quick fix. It's almost like a quick study session. And eventually you will lose that knowledge because you can only sustain it for so long as a speedster. Bart, on the other hand, the knowledge stays permanent for him. So he, at one point, read an entire... He literally read the entire San Francisco library. And because of that, he has all this, like, unbelievable knowledge. So that's actually one of the cool and unique things about Bart, is that, yes, unlike all the other Flashes, he can retain the speed mind, the speed knowledge, which is really, really useful. And again, makes him, he may not be the fastest Flash, but he's definitely the smartest. Okay, this is pretty sick too. I love this cover too, where you see like Zoom in the background. So yeah, we're gonna get Zoom. Zoom is coming back. Why is he coming back though? Apparently, someone sends a hunter out to go after Bart. We do find out who that is. And it's a very shocking reveal of who is the person who would send Hunter Solomon out for Bart. Grandma? Iris? Yes, Iris at one point basically hires Hunter Solomon to try to take down Bart. Why does she do that, though? Basically, here's what's going on. Iris, of course, being from the future, has a lot of future knowledge. She at one point does, she at one point sees in the data books that something's going to happen to Bart. So what she's trying to do is she's trying to change the timeline to prevent this tragedy from happening. So she's basically sending Zoom, of course not out to, like, kill him or anything, but just to, like, put him down for a bit, just to, like, make sure, like, oh, maybe if I take Bart out of here, he won't run into that other incident and what I saw won't happen. Basically, she sees that Bart is going to die. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but spoiler alert, this is the last volume. Yeah, there are only 2 volumes of this book, only 13 issues. But Bart does accept that, though. Bart sees, you know what? If I have to die, especially if it means saving lives, I will do that. Because one of the things that does happen is Inherita ends up working with the Rogues to build this machine that's going to be used to freeze all of time, so they can rob and do whatever. Of course, that's not the actual original intention of the machine. Inherita's just tricking the Rogues. Okay, also, quick little rant here. Pied Piper's with them. Why is he back with them? Pied Piper should be reformed. He was reformed at the end of Johns' run. I don't know why he's here. That's one of the few things I don't like about this run, that they screwed up. And even, like, at one point, like, they mentioned it very briefly, and he just says, reform's overrated. What? Yeah, okay. But anyway, yeah, so what the real purpose of the machine, though, of what it's going to do is it's going to suck the Speed Force out of Bart. And obviously he wants to go all to a... Basically, Inherita wants all the Speed Force to himself. Of course, the problem is, though, is that one of the things that Inherita doesn't take account for is that when you're releasing such a massive amount of energy like the Speed Force out in the open like this, it's basically, the book says itself, it's the equivalent of 10 atomic bombs all launching at once. So, yeah, basically, this is going to end the world if this energy is not taken down. Eventually, though, what does happen is Iris does recruit Val to help out, because Val has this, like, vast knowledge of, like, the Speed Force, training at Star Labs, and of course knowing about the stuff with her father. But she is able to sustain it. But one of the things is that Bart is holding down the fort while she's trying to rework this machine where it's not going to, like, burst everything out, but more or less it's basically just going to release the Speed Force back to where it was and make everything back in the status quo. And then, of course, one of the things that Bart does see, he does see the Black Flash. And if you remember from a couple episodes ago, I talked about whenever a speedster sees the Black Flash, that means he's close to death. I do like this little scene, too, from Bart's virtual reality childhood. He has this moment with Barry. But eventually, though, yes, like, at one point, the Speed Force is out of Bart, because the machine does get turned on. So as of right now, Bart technically has no powers. He has no powers, he's trying to take down these rogues, but he's also trying to, like, fix this machine so everything doesn't, like, go all out. He's able to hold on as much as he can while Val does her thing. Though there is this great moment, probably his most epic moment as the Flash, where Abracadabra They got him all down. He goes, I want to kill the Flash. All of us do. But look at him. This child, he isn't the Flash. And then Bart starts to say something. He goes, heh. And Albert goes, excuse me? It's just funny, y'all. What is? Let me put it to you this way. I am the Flash. And he gets out of the dog pile and he takes down the rogues as best as he can with no speed, able to use his police academy training. And Herod is going after him. Bart's going as well. He does stop Inherita, but also all the rogues end up shooting down Bart. But Bart, of course, with no powers, takes the brunt of it. And the Speed Force is fixed. However, no, it's not fully back at Bart. Val goes, please tap into it. He goes, I tried. I can't. And Bart ends up dying. And the book ends with a tribute and monument to the Flash, to Bart Allen. The book doesn't end here, though. We do have this one issue called All Flash. However, before we get to that, let's take a look at a couple other stuff I feel like you guys should read before this. Alright, so first off, here's just a little bonus book I'm throwing in. This is actually from the series Countdown to Final Crisis. Do not read this series. It is horrible from what I understand. I never read it fully, but I've heard. It's very infamous, let's just say that. But I specifically picked out this issue because this issue is actually completely devoted to Bart's funeral. So if you want to see more of his funeral and how the Titans are taking all this, the Rogues as well, you can check this out. But now, the main book you should check out before going... So basically, for the reading order, I would say stop at that issue for the Volume 2 trade. Stop before All Flash and read this. This is Justice League of America, the Lightning Saga. This is a crossover with both the JLA and the JSA. It's written by Brad Meltzer and Geoff Johns. Yes, Geoff Johns is back. And we'll get into more Geoff Johns a little later. Also, introduction by Patton Oswalt for some reason. Okay. But anyway, just to sum up this book really quick. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but basically, the JLA and JSA are trying to figure out what the Legion is doing. The Legion is doing some random stuff, and one of the things that they are doing, or that they find out eventually, is they're trying to resurrect a fallen hero. A hero who has died. The problem with doing this, though, is that doing this could sacrifice one of them. Swap one life for another. So, of course, like, the JLA don't want that. The JSA doesn't want that. So they're trying to stop the Legion from doing it. Ultimately, though, they do it, and nothing comes of it. But still, it is an interesting story. It's a pretty good story. But mainly the main reason we're here, though, is the ending itself. So, just to give a hint, notice that the book is called The Lightning Saga. Okay? And they also at one point talk about resurrecting a fallen hero. Now, at one point, they're not sure who they think it's going to be, but at one point, one of the things that does happen is they go to certain locations to find all these different lightning rods that they need to do the process of the resurrection, And one of the things that's interesting is one of the locations that they go to, or a couple of the locations that they go to, is Batman ends up going to a location where he originally ends up finding the same room he was at in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths where he saw Barry's ghost. And Hal ends up in Barry's lab, which the book kind of alludes to, oh my god, are they going to resurrect Barry? Are they going to do it? Eventually they do resurrect someone. It's not Barry, though. It's Wally, Linda, and their two twins, Jai and Iris, grown up. Yes, Wally is back. Basically what happened is Fastest Man Alive didn't really do so well. A lot of fans were complaining that they wanted Wally back. So Wally's now back in the picture again, at least for a little bit. I don't want to say at least, but he's going to be back for a bit. And we'll get more into his return and how that all came about in the next episode. And until then, like and subscribe, guys. Check out the YouTube channel. Check out different videos, including Steven's Earth X videos, as well as Kevin's whole videos. Check everything out, and like and subscribe. Join the Facebook group, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Hey, Omnibuds! Be sure to check out the Omnibuds Cafe merchandise store where you can buy mugs, t-shirts, stickers. We're using earnings to buy equipment for YouTube and to fund more giveaways. Who doesn't like giveaways? So click the link in the description and start shopping.